Welcome back. I am Pastor Doug. We now continue with part 122 in our series entitled Paul's Letters to the Corinthians. In many cases, human good can play a part in the treatment of the overt symptoms of spiritual issues. However, if the root of the problem is spiritual, the problem will remain and manifest itself over and over again, oftentimes with an ever-increasing degree of intensity. Matthew 12:45. Spiritual problems require spiritual solutions. Even then, many believers, like the proverbial dog or pig, will still choose to return to his or her vomit. 2 Peter 2:22. Or to the environment, where a return to the sin or sinful lifestyle is inevitable. Unless criminally insane, every action or behavior we engage in is a result of a conscious decision to do so. All of us have an accountability to both secular and divine authority. All of us have at least one area of sin in which we are extremely vulnerable to the influence of the sin nature that is within us. When we are humble enough to understand and acknowledge the pressure that our own sin nature can produce when it comes to our own areas of weakness, we can begin to then understand how others can be so vulnerable to the pressure put on them to do the things that they do. Acknowledging what areas of sin we are most vulnerable can go a long way in detecting an incoming satanic attack. Acknowledging the presence and the influence of the fallen nature within us is not to be used as an excuse or self-justification when we fail. No matter how vulnerable we may be or how intense the pressure may be to engage in our personal areas of weakness and sin, neither Satan nor the fallen nature within us is stronger than God the Holy Spirit who indwells us. We cannot sin until we first choose to ignore or to reject the post-salvation leading, teaching, and control of God the Holy Spirit at any given time. Sin is a conscious choice and decision that we make. Don't fool yourself. We sin because we choose to do so, and in some cases, because we like the pleasure, Hebrews 11:25, that sin brings to us, or the satisfaction of a need or a desire that is generated by the fallen nature within us. We have all been there and done that, and we will all find ourselves there again, doing that. Romans 7 teaches that not only does the old sin nature remain within us after we are saved, but intensifies in its strength and influence to the same degree that we respond to God and the things of God, to which the old sin nature is inherently hostile. Romans 8:7. Accordingly, there will always be the temptation to engage in the area or areas of sin that appeal to our own fallen nature. Being tempted, Matthew chapter 4, is not a sin. But if we entertain the tempting thoughts that come into our minds long enough or frequently enough, we are playing with fire and are going to be burnt. The fallen nature in man does not manifest itself the same way as it does in all individuals, but it does manifest itself. We have our own areas of strength and our own areas of weakness. There are areas of sin that are of no interest to us, but present an ongoing struggle for others to resist. What is of no interest to others is an ongoing struggle for us to resist. The same sin nature that pressures some to engage in immoral sexual behavior, such as child molestation, premarital sex, extramarital sex, adultery, homosexuality, lesbianism, is the same fallen nature that motivates others to lie, steal, hate, judge, or murder. In order to maintain law and order, and in the interest of justice, the laws of man differentiate between minor offenses, serious offenses, and capital crimes, and impose corresponding punishments. There is a reasonable balance between allowing individuals to exercise personal freedom and activity that must be regulated by government. Knowing what areas of sin are to be included in the criminal laws of a society and what sins are to be under the jurisdiction of God takes great wisdom. God will not bless a nation that defies his laws. Rather, they are found within a nation's book of law or not. The passing of a law does not in itself ensure compliance of the law or the ability of government authority to enforce it. Society cannot afford to accept being born that way as an excuse to engage in any activity that it determines to be under the jurisdiction of the state. According to Psalms 51:5, we were all born that way. We all come into this world with a sin nature. Accepting this biblical principle of being born with a sin nature as a defense in the administration of justice would be ludicrous. There would not be one defendant that this principle could not be applied to. If it were up to many of us, there would be no room in heaven for those who commit certain heinous crimes. But this is not the mind of Christ. 1 Corinthians 2:16. The mind of Christ is that he has already paid for every sin of every man, woman, and child who ever was or ever will be born into this world, with the one exception. That exception being the sin of disbelief. John 3:18. In the eyes of God, the adulterer, the war criminal, the child molester, the thief, the lesbian, the murderer, the liar, the fornicator, etc., 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 are no better or worse than anyone else. James chapter 2, verse 10.